This engine was brand new, 47 hours on the clock, and now it's dead. Not from a crash, not from age, not from anything the owner did wrong. It died because of water. A few drops of water hiding inside the fuel tank. The repair bill? Over $11,000. The part that could have stopped it? Less than $300. And here's what makes this story even worse. The dealership never mentioned it. The owner's manual barely covers it. And the boat's factory filter? It was never designed to catch what destroyed this engine. This isn't bad luck. This is a pattern. Thousands of boats, millions in damage, and one cheap fix that almost nobody talks about. Why? Because when your engine fails, someone makes money. There was a time when fuel was simple. You pulled up to the dock, filled your tank, and never gave it a second thought. For decades, that's exactly how boating worked. The gasoline that powered your engine was stable, predictable, and remarkably forgiving. In the 1980s and 1990s, marine fuel contained no ethanol. It resisted water absorption naturally. And the fuel systems of that era, carburetors, mechanical fuel pumps, rubber fuel lines, were engineered around that reality. Boat owners worried about horsepower and hull design and trailer maintenance. Nobody stayed awake at night thinking about fuel chemistry, because fuel was just fuel. It did what it was supposed to do. Marine manufacturers built their entire product lines around this assumption. Fuel filters were basic, designed to catch particles and debris, the occasional bit of sediment that might find its way into a tank. And for years, that was more than enough. The system worked. Engines ran, boats performed, and the relationship between fuel and machine was one of quiet, reliable partnership. Then everything changed. When you walk into a boat dealership today, the experience feels carefully designed to inspire confidence. The brochures are glossy. The salespeople are knowledgeable. The boats themselves gleam under showroom lights, every surface polished to perfection. What you see is horsepower, torque curves, top speed, fuel efficiency ratings. You see twin outboards that promise 300 horses each. You see center consoles that can handle open water. You see a lifestyle, weekends on the bay, fishing trips with friends, sunsets viewed from the helm. What you don't see is a conversation about fuel filtration. Mercury, Yamaha, Suzuki, Honda, every major manufacturer installs a fuel filter on their engines. It's a small canister, usually rated at 10 microns, tucked somewhere along the fuel line between the tank and the engine. In the owner's manual, buried somewhere around page 47, you'll find it listed under routine maintenance. Change it every 100 hours. Simple enough. And for most buyers, that's where the education ends. The salesperson doesn't explain phase separation. The financing paperwork doesn't mention ethanol damage. The warranty document, that thick stack of legal language nobody reads, doesn't warn you about what's actually happening inside American fuel today. Because here's the truth that no glossy brochure will tell you. That factory filter was designed to catch particles. Dirt, debris, sediment. It does that job reasonably well. But it was never designed to separate water from fuel. And in the modern era of ethanol-blended gasoline, water isn't a rare possibility. It's an inevitable certainty. The first warnings didn't come from manufacturers. They came from the people who work on boats every day. The mechanics, the technicians, the service managers who started seeing patterns they couldn't ignore. Around 2008, 2009, 2010, the years after ethanol mandates expanded across the United States, online forums began filling with stories that shared an unsettling similarity. Owners reporting rough idle on startup, hesitation under load, mysterious stalling in open water, engines that ran perfectly for months, then suddenly refused to cooperate. At first, these seemed like isolated incidents. Bad luck. Maybe a contaminated batch of fuel from a questionable marina. Maybe user error. But the reports kept coming. And then came the catastrophic failures. Fuel injectors destroyed from the inside out. High-pressure fuel pumps seized and ruined. Entire fuel systems corroded beyond repair. The common thread connecting every single case? The owner had trusted their factory fuel filter. They had followed the maintenance schedule. They had done everything right, and every single one of them had been failed by what was hiding in their tank. To understand what's destroying marine engines across America, you need to understand one word: hygroscopic. It's a scientific term, but the meaning is simple. It describes a substance that attracts water like a magnet pulls iron. Ethanol is hygroscopic, and ethanol is now in virtually every gallon of gasoline sold in the United States. In 1990, 0% of American gasoline contained ethanol. By 2023, that number had climbed to over 98%. Almost all of it is E10, a blend containing 10% ethanol by volume. The policy goals behind this shift were reasonable: reduce dependence on foreign oil, lower emissions, support American corn farmers. But the consequences for boat owners were never part of the calculation. Every time you open your fuel cap, humid air enters the tank. Every temperature swing, warm days followed by cool nights, causes condensation to form on the inside walls of the tank, and the ethanol in your fuel absorbs that moisture, molecule by molecule, day after day. For a while, the water stays suspended within the gasoline, invisible, undetectable. Your engine runs fine. Everything seems normal. But ethanol can only hold so much water before it reaches saturation. The threshold is roughly 0.5% by volume. In a 100-gallon fuel tank, that's just half a gallon of water, an amount that can accumulate over a single boating season through normal use. When that threshold is crossed, something catastrophic occurs. The ethanol water mixture separates from the gasoline and sinks to the bottom of the tank. This process is called phase separation. And because your fuel pickup tube draws from the bottom of the tank, that separated mixture is exactly what gets pumped into your engine first. What reaches your fuel injectors isn't gasoline. It isn't even contaminated gasoline. It's a corrosive, acidic slurry that attacks metal surfaces, degrades rubber seals, and destroys precision components that were never designed to encounter it. The damage is often swift and always expensive. In 2019, a marine industry trade publication surveyed 200 certified technicians across the United States. When asked to identify the most common cause of fuel system failure, 73% gave the same answer: water contamination from phase-separated fuel. Not debris, not old gasoline, water. The average repair cost for phase separation damage was $6,400. For high-performance outboards with direct fuel injection, the kind found on boats costing $80,000 and up, that figure climbed to $9,000, $12,000, sometimes exceeding $14,000. The components destroyed in these failures aren't simple parts. High-pressure fuel pumps cost $1,800 each. Fuel injectors run $400 to $600 per cylinder, and a 6-cylinder outboard has 6 of them. Add fuel rail replacements, pressure regulators, sensor modules, and labor rates that average $150 per hour, and a single incident can approach the cost of a used car. One technician in Florida, a man who spent 18 years working on marine engines, described his experience in terms that should concern every boat owner. He sees 2 or 3 phase separation cases every month. Same story each time. The owner had no idea what was happening. The factory filter looked perfectly fine during inspection, but when the tank was examined, a 1/4 inch of water was sitting at the bottom. By that point, the damage was already done. The factory filter had performed exactly as designed. It caught dirt, it caught sediment, it did its job. But water passed straight through. And no one had ever explained to these owners that catching water required something entirely different. Mark Thompson saved for years before buying his first new boat, a center console with twin 300-horsepower Yamaha outboards. The total investment came to $127,000, more money than he'd ever spent on anything except his house. He did everything right, followed the maintenance schedule printed in the owner's manual, used the fuel grade the manufacturer recommended, winterized the boat properly when the season ended, He treated that boat the way you treat something you've worked half your life to afford. 18 months after purchase, both engines began misfiring. The dealer ran diagnostics and delivered the verdict: water contamination, phase separation. The fuel systems on both outboards were compromised beyond simple repair. The estimate to fix both engines came to $17,600. Mark's factory warranty? Denied. The explanation was clinical and absolute. Fuel contamination is not a covered defect. The damage resulted from external factors outside the manufacturer's control. Claim rejected. When Mark asked why his brand-new boat hadn't come equipped with a water-separating filter, the kind that might have prevented this, the service manager gave him an answer that was remarkable for its honesty. They don't install them because it adds cost, and most buyers don't know to ask. Mark isn't alone. His story repeats itself in marinas across the country, season after season. Owners who did nothing wrong, owners who followed every instruction, owners who trusted that a $100,000 boat would come equipped to handle the fuel actually sold at American gas stations. The economics of boat dealerships help explain why this pattern continues. Dealers operate on thin margins. A new boat sale might generate 8 to 12% profit before financing costs, trade-in allowances, and manufacturer incentives are calculated. On a $100,000 boat, the dealership might clear $8,000. Respectable, but not transformative. Service departments tell a different story. Labor rates run $125 to $175 per hour. Parts carry substantial markups. And fuel system repairs, the complex component-heavy jobs that phase separation creates, generate revenue that can exceed the profit from the original boat sale. One dealer in the Midwest, speaking on condition of anonymity, described the reality in blunt terms. If his dealership installed water-separating filters on every boat sold, they would lose roughly half their fuel-related service revenue. That conversation doesn't happen in ownership meetings. The incentives point in a different direction. This isn't conspiracy. It isn't malice. It's simply economics operating as economics does. And the customer absorbs the cost. The manufacturers themselves maintain careful silence on this subject. When asked why outboard engines don't ship with fuel water separating filters as standard equipment, the responses follow a pattern. Mercury Marine declined to comment. Yamaha referred inquiries to their owner's manual, which recommends aftermarket filtration in areas with known fuel quality issues. Language so vague it provides cover without providing guidance. Suzuki and Honda did not respond to requests for clarification, but their own technical documents reveal a different awareness. Every major manufacturer's warranty explicitly excludes damage from contaminated fuel. Every service bulletin addressing ethanol-related problems includes the same recommendation: install an aftermarket fuel water separator. A Mercury Marine bulletin from 2022 states it directly. Fuel quality issues, including water contamination, can cause serious engine damage not covered under warranty. Mercury recommends the use of an approved fuel water separating filter system, especially in regions where ethanol-blended fuel is prevalent. They know the problem exists. They know the solution exists. They have decided that implementing that solution is the customer's responsibility. And most customers don't learn this until the repair bill arrives. The roots of this crisis don't begin in boat factories or marine dealerships. They begin in Washington, D.C. The Renewable Fuel Standard was enacted in 2005 and significantly expanded in 2007. The legislation mandated that billions of gallons of ethanol be blended into the American fuel supply each year. The policy objectives were straightforward: reduce dependence on foreign petroleum, lower carbon emissions from transportation, and provide economic support to American agricultural communities. These were reasonable goals pursued through established legislative processes. But marine engines were never part of the equation. The fundamental difference between cars and boats comes down to usage patterns. Automobiles are driven daily, sometimes multiple times per day. A typical car might burn through a tank of fuel in a week or two. That rapid turnover gives ethanol minimal time to absorb atmospheric moisture. Boats operate differently. A recreational vessel might sit for weeks or months between outings. The fuel in its tank has time to absorb humidity through every temperature cycle, every fuel cap opening, every passing weather system. What takes a car 2 weeks takes a boat 2 months. And in that extended timeline, phase separation shifts from possibility to probability. The Environmental Protection Agency's own guidance documents acknowledge this disparity. Their materials note that E10 fuel may cause problems in marine engines, motorcycles, and small engines due to longer storage periods and different operating conditions. The warning exists. It simply hasn't translated into meaningful protection for consumers. Understanding the mathematics of this situation reveals the full scope of what boat owners face. A quality fuel water separating filter system costs between $250 and $350, including installation. Annual replacement filters cost $25 to $50. Over a 10-year ownership period, a reasonable lifespan for a well-maintained boat, the total investment in filtration comes to approximately $600 to $800. Now consider the cost of a single-phase separation incident. High-pressure fuel pump replacement runs $1,800 to $2,400. Injector cleaning or replacement costs $2,400 to $4,800 for a 6-cylinder outboard. Fuel tank cleaning and inspection adds $400 to $800. Labor charges contribute another $800 to $1,500. A moderate phase separation repair totals $5,400 to $9,500. Severe cases involving multiple component failures can reach $12,000 to $18,000. The return on investment for a separator system isn't 10 to 1, it approaches 20 to 1. By any rational calculation, the filter pays for itself many times over. Yet the majority of recreational boats sold in America leave the dealership without one. The marine industry is not engaged in deliberate harm. No manufacturer wakes up hoping customers will suffer expensive repairs. But the industry operates within an economic system where short-term calculations frequently override long-term customer protection. Dealers hesitate to recommend separators because the conversation adds complexity to the sales process. An additional $300 on a $100,000 purchase seems trivial in percentage terms, but sales psychology doesn't work in percentages. Every added line item creates friction. Every additional decision point risks losing the sale. Manufacturers don't install separators as standard equipment because doing so adds cost to the sticker price. In a competitive market where buyers compare specifications across brands, even small price differences influence purchasing decisions. And consumers don't demand separators because no one tells them they should. The information gap perpetuates itself. Dealers assume customers will ask if they want additional filtration. Customers assume the factory configuration is adequate for normal use. The cycle continues until something breaks, and by then, the invoice is already being written. The solution to this problem has existed for over 40 years. In the commercial marine world, fishing fleets, charter operations, workboats that run 8 hours a day, fuel water separating filters are considered as essential as the engine itself. No professional captain would consider operating without one. The technology is elegantly simple. Fuel enters a canister housing and passes through a coalescing element designed to cause water droplets to merge together. These larger droplets, heavier than gasoline, sink to a collection bowl at the bottom of the unit. Clean, dry fuel exits through a secondary filter element and continues to the engine. A transparent bowl allows visual inspection, and a drain valve permits water removal in seconds. For most recreational boats, a 10-micron water-separating filter with a clear collection bowl provides adequate protection. The industry standard bearers are the Raker series, particularly the 320R for smaller vessels and the 500 series for larger applications. along with Sierra's 187948 and 187983 systems. When selecting a unit, 4 features matter most. First, a see-through bowl that permits easy inspection for accumulated water. Second, a drain valve positioned for convenient water removal. Third, a filter rating of 10 microns or finer to catch particulate contamination. Fourth, flow capacity sufficient to meet your engine's fuel demand without creating restriction. For twin-engine configurations, 2 approaches work well. You can install 1 separator per engine, providing independent protection and redundancy. Alternatively, a single high-flow unit with a distribution manifold can serve both engines adequately. Most experienced technicians recommend individual units because if one filter becomes clogged, the other engine continues operating normally. Installation is straightforward for anyone comfortable with basic mechanical work. The separator mounts between the fuel tank and the engine's primary fuel filter. Most systems include mounting brackets and appropriate hose fittings. A competent do-it-yourselfer can complete the job in a weekend afternoon. Those who prefer professional installation can expect 2 to 3 hours of labor at typical shop rates, $150 to $250 in most markets. Once installed, maintenance requires minimal effort. Before every outing, glance at the collection bowl. Water appears as a cloudy layer at the bottom, distinctly different from the amber clarity of clean fuel. If water is present, open the drain valve and release it. The process takes 30 seconds. Replace the filter element annually or every 100 hours of operation, whichever arrives first. Replacement elements cost $25 to $45, depending on the model. That modest annual investment stands between your engine and potential disaster. Beyond the separator itself, certain habits further reduce risk. Keep your fuel tank as full as practical during storage periods. A full tank minimizes the airspace where condensation forms. Use a marine-specific fuel stabilizer if the boat will sit unused for more than 2 weeks. Products formulated for ethanol-blended fuel help prevent phase separation during extended storage. Purchase fuel from high-volume stations where inventory turns over quickly. Gasoline that sits in underground tanks for extended periods has more opportunity to absorb moisture before you ever pump it. And if your marina offers ethanol-free fuel, consider using it despite the higher cost. Eliminating ethanol eliminates the phase separation risk entirely. These measures aren't secrets known only to industry insiders. They're practical knowledge that simply hasn't been shared widely enough. The information exists. The solutions are accessible and affordable. What's been missing is the bridge between those who know and those who need to know. The marine industry builds remarkable machines. Engines capable of 600 horsepower that run reliably for thousands of hours. Vessels that cross oceans and weather storms that would humble lesser craft. The engineering excellence is genuine and worthy of respect, but somewhere between the design studio and the sales floor, essential truths get lost. The best-kept secret in boating shouldn't be a secret at all. Now you know. And knowing is how you protect what you've worked so hard to own.